Let me shut up. Let's start, and then we can unpack that.
Sounds
Unpack
good.
that on the yeah, cool. All right. Cool. Hey everyone, welcome to our episode with Grace. Do you want to say hi, Grace?
Hi.
Ben unfortunately couldn't make it today. He had some other things on, so just be me and Grace today. We do also have Mubarak, who is our producer. I said I wouldn't introduce him, but then I've gone and done that. Cool. But yeah, I want to shout out our sponsors for our podcast, Elevate Marketing Group. If you need a website made, they're the guys that you want to get in contact with. But yeah, hey Grace, welcome. So Grace is a PT based in Wollongong. She has quite an interesting story. She's really developed as a person over the last few years, and now she's supporting her clients in their journey. Yeah, I was looking for the right word, but yeah, I found it. Journey to become better people and better
Versions of themselves.
Yeah, you can tell your story better than I am, so I'll pass over to you.
So I'm Grace. I originally am from Wollongong, but I've moved and lived all around the place. As you would know, lived in Canberra for a little bit. That's where we met. But yeah, I'm a PT. I have worked a lot of different jobs, but I've just started running my own business. I'm nearly a year in business, actually, as of December, which is really cool. But yeah, I'm a personal trainer, coach. I also grew up playing football, which is a massive part of my life. And yeah, now I'm really into powerlifting. I still play football, but just for fun. Now I don't really take it as seriously as I used to. And yeah, now I powerlift. I'm competing next year, which is really cool. And yeah, just living life, studying, running my own business, hanging out with friends. That's pretty much me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Talk to us about some of the challenges you face. You said you're a year into your business, and I'm sure especially in that first year, there would have been a lot of teething issues and things that have come up that you've had to push through and get past. So share some of that. Yeah,
totally. I think, like I said, I started it about a year ago and I fell into personal training. It wasn't something I'd ever really planned on doing. I am studying exercise science at UOW. So my goal when I started was to be a physio. I didn't even consider personal training. And at that time I was working at Woolies and I just stopped playing football actually. And I was like, well, I need to do something with myself. So what am I going to do? I joined a gym. And then, I fell into an admin role at the gym. I was like, I really like this space. Let me work here. I loved it. I loved helping people get started and selling memberships and doing all that kind of stuff. But it kind of got to a point and that's all I could really help them with. And so after 2.5 years of doing that, I was like, all right, how else, how can I help them further than just signing a membership? How can I help them even more feel comfortable in the gym? Because that's what they were like for me. They were so welcoming to me. And I was I'm one of those people. But I was like, how can I help them further? And I guess I started chatting with the PTs that worked at my gym. And I was like, that's kind of seems like a cool gig. I think I want to give it a go. I was like, it'd be a really cool side thing to do while I'm at uni. And then I can go and do physio and whatever. So I took a year off uni. I took a year off and I did my Cert 3 and 4 in fitness. And then I decided to start my own business and I was thrown into starting my own business too. So I don't know if you know much about gyms, but the way PT works is you either are under an employment basis where you get paid hourly, or you are a sole trader. So you pay rent to the gym and you run your own business and you do whatever you want pretty much. I mean, within means. So it was an employment basis. And then as soon as I got my certificate and my head coach was like, you've got a job whenever you're ready. And as soon as I was ready, it was, okay, we're switching to a sole trader model. And I was like, hang on a minute, freaking out. I can't, I was I was secure in the fact that it was an employment basis. I was going to get paid hourly and it didn't matter whether my client showed up or whatever, it'd be fine. And I was like, hang on, this is crazy. Starting my own business, this was never something, can I even do this? So I went into it being well, I get to train people and I'll get paid more because with an employment basis, you know, they pay you a certain amount. So I was like, I guess it'll be cool. Like, I'm sure I'll be fine. I had no idea what I was getting myself into now. But, you know, I just had such a passion for it. And I was so like, whatever happens, I'll make it work. Like, what's the worst case? You know, like, I'm like, what's the worst case? It doesn't happen. And I go back to my admin job. And, you know, they always said, you know, I'm welcome back. They still ask me to this day. But yeah, so I was thrown in the deep end. And like I said, PT was never something that I thought for myself. And it has been really challenging because, like I said, like I didn't really know what I was getting into, was kind of thrown into it. And the first 6 months was like good. But it was really challenging. Like I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even use my Instagram before. And I think that's been a massive thing in terms of confidence, is like putting myself out there, and like social media is a storefront. Like I have to advertise myself and do all of those things on Instagram. And I found that really difficult. And online is just like the way to go. And I had no idea what I was doing. So actually I think it was June or July, I invested in a business coach, which that in itself was really difficult. I basically gave her half the money that I have as a deposit. And after that, I had like $2,000 to my name, and the actual course is $7,000. So I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to do this, but we're going to make it work. And I have, so that's great.
Awesome.
She was awesome. Her name's Sky. She's just like the most incredible business coach. She helped me so much. Such a worthy investment. So yeah, a lesson I learned early on was definitely invest in yourself and invest in your business. And yeah, that's like, I mean, I've had challenges, but overall, like it's been really fun, and it's just been like the best thing ever. And as challenging as it is, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like, you know, I look back on it now and I'm like, if you would have told me 4 years ago that I'd be a PT, I'd be like, what? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Back then I thought I was going to be a Matilda and be playing football. You know, like
change.
Completely changed. And I think like that's the course that my life, I'm very like reactive or like responding to things that happen in my life rather than like planning. I feel like that, for me, like when I plan, it never goes to plan anyways. So I just kind of go with the flow. And this is where I've ended up. And like now I see a career, like at first, like I said before, it was very much it'll be a cool side hustle until I become a physio. Now I'm like, once I'm finished my undergrad, like I really want to push this thing. Like this is what I want to do. I see myself doing this for a long time. And a lot of PTs don't see it like that. Like they see it as like an interim or like until they have kids, or because the hours like split shifts and all that good stuff. You know, like it's always an interim thing. And I've had people tell me, you're only going to last 5 years. You're only going to last 10 years and then you'll get over it. You'll get over the thing. I had one of the first like PTs that I'd speak to at my gym told me that, and I still went, I want to give it a go. Like even if I, you know, only last 5 years or whatever, I want to give it a go. So I just knew it felt right. So I kept following it. So that's where I am now. And now I'm like, no, I can see myself doing this for a long time. You know, maybe not face to face forever, but definitely in the online space or in like the educational space and things like that. Even like being on a podcast, like that's really cool to me, like doing all this stuff. I love talking, as you can probably tell. I've been talking for like 10 minutes already. So like, you know, like I can see a future for it. So yeah, it's super exciting, and I'm so passionate about it, and I love what I do, and I love helping the girls that I do, and guys. I have a few guy clients as well. So yeah, like I can definitely see a future with it now, which I didn't at the start. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, without wanting to reveal too much about, because we've spoken about some of your future plans and stuff, and you do have some pretty big plans. So, but that's not for me to share, so I won't share it. But what I will say is that one thing I've noticed about what you offer as well is it's very different to what the normal PT would offer. So you offer online classes as well, but you're not just looking to be a PT, but really and you didn't really touch on this before, and I kind of want to expand this out, but you're really looking to build community. You know, you have I can't remember what it's called, but you have this thing that you do, like your walks and stuff that you do with your clients and all that kind of thing. Do you want to talk about that? It's really really quite interesting.
Yeah, I think for me, something like in the future, which I don't mind hiding, like I'm happy to say, put it out there. I'd love to have my own space one day. Like I don't want to work in someone else's gym forever. I'd love to have my own space. But, you know, with PT, it's one-on-one. Especially like in like commercial space, like you don't really have the opportunity to create much community within your clients. Like it's very much like your clients will come in and you'll see them, but they don't interact with each other, or, you know, you don't really have that aspect to it. So, and that's something that I really value as a person is connection and community. And, you know, like I always say to my clients, building connection and building a friendship is how I better understand and where you're coming from, and I'm able to help you more, rather than if I was to just remain like your trainer and you're my client. Like I don't really see it like that. I see it as like, you know, we're on the same level. I'm human too. I do the exact same things that they do, and I'm just here as like, you know, a bit of a guide, a bit of a person to chat to, a person to kind of keep them accountable and to help them when they need it. And so for me, I felt like in my business, I was lacking community. I was lacking that connection. So with my business coach, that's what we were working on, was building connection with my clients, deeper connections with my clients, and also building community. And so one thing that I started was, I don't really have a name for it. I just kind of call it like coffee, walk and talks, because it like has a ring to it. But it's just like on a Friday morning, originally it was just for my clients, and me. And we can like chat and go get caffeinated and walk early in the mornings. And as much as it's for them, it's for me too. Like I want to get out there and get active, especially as it gets warmer. And as a powerlifter, I hate cardio. So any kind of distraction while I'm doing it is great. But also like to build that community within my clients, to get them interacting with each other. And yeah, it's really cool. And then I kind of went, why am I just limiting this to clients? Like, why don't I just open it and like invite everybody? Like, who cares? Like, let's all go for a walk. Like I said, I value connection. So not just within my clients, but just in general in life, and building friendships and being able to connect with like-minded people. So yeah, I decided to open it up, and I just put it out there on my Instagram, and I actually had 10 people last week, which is really cool. Considering it's only been like 3 weeks since I even started it, or this week was the 4th week. The first 2 weeks were raining, so we didn't even get to walk. We just sat in the cafe, which was still really cool. I had one girl that I'd like not really met before either. Like I know of her, but I've never met her before, and she decided to come, and then like a few people from the gym that aren't my clients, and it's just really cool. Like I don't know, I just really love that stuff, and yeah, it's been really awesome. So I've been doing that, and I've been really working on connecting with my clients too, because I think that's really important. And yeah, just coming from like a place of understanding and like, you know, being human. Like I eat KFC and McDonald's. I love that. Like, you know, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm this, you know, health god, because I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just a human that likes to train, and I want to share that with other people too.
Yeah, I think the power of community is really awesome. I think in this age of social media and stuff, we kind of forget that actually people are at the forefront of everything that we should be doing, you know, whether it be you're working your job and you're a guy and you're looking to provide for your family, or whether it be you're a woman, you know, doing your own thing and, you know, trying to create your own space within this world. You know, at the end of the day, even if it's not for other people, like even if it's not necessarily for your family or whatever, it's for you, you know. And so having those spaces which you're looking to create, where not only you're holding other people accountable, or other people are also able to collectively hold people accountable and say, hey, look, guys, we're all progressing towards this thing and we're all at different levels or whatever, but here's some people that can support you on this journey. And
Yeah.
what you mentioned as well is connecting like-minded people and creating a space where people who are in, like, obviously they're looking to self-improve and that kind of thing can really tap in and just,
Yeah.
have a nice day where you guys all catch up and talk about your lives and talk about the things that you're progressing towards, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Not necessarily just about the gym, but
Yeah.
about the people you want to become.
Yeah, I think I've seen like a few around Wollongong, like a lot of, they call it talk to me bro, I think is one, and it's like a men's group, and they do like a walk, and they do like an ocean swim, and then they get a coffee, and I really really loved that, and I was like, I bet if I asked I could go along, but it's definitely like a male thing, like it's very much a, with men and like suicide rates and things like that, they've created this space for men to be able to feel safe and talk about their feelings and all that kind of stuff and just connect with people. And I really loved that idea. I was like, that is such an awesome thing that they're doing. And I was like, it's very like easy to just like put up on my Instagram, hey, like let's all meet up for a walk. I don't care who you are or where you're from or what, whatever. Like let's just go for a walk and chat and get caffeinated, because I love coffee. That is about me. So anything that's got coffee involved, I'm there. So yeah, I think it's really cool. And like them knowing that like a lot of these people, like I've been there where they're at, and we can just chat. And it's not even about like training or anything like that. It's very much just like they can get to know me in a setting that's not the gym, and it's not like a session where I'm telling them what to do or I'm telling them how to do something. It's just like, hey, this is me on my day off, and let's just go for a walk and get a coffee. And I really like that, because I want to show them that side of me too. And like, they can see me in my natural, not that the gym's not a natural habitat for me, because I basically live there, but, like just see me be me without having my coaching hat on. So that's really cool too, because then like I said before, you're able to develop those friendships and those connections. And yeah, I think it also, like, people will be quite hesitant when they start with a coach and they don't, open up straight away, which is totally fine. But having that setting where it's not in the gym and they can really get to know me and that side of me is really cool as well. But yeah, I really, really love it. Really love it.
All right, we're going to talk next about how you've progressed to become the person you are today, because we both know that, you talked about 4 years ago, you would have never imagined you would have done that. And we both know it's because of who you were like 4 years ago. Not to say you're a bad person, but you're a very different person, right?
Different.
And so what I want you to talk about is how you've kind of learned the thing. We talked about, you had a business coach and whatever, but you've also done a lot of work on yourself and put yourself in uncomfortable positions. And what we kind of want to explore today is unpacking that from a female's perspective, because a guy's perspective is very, very different when it comes to those sort of things. So just talk about how you've changed things in your personality and your thoughts and your mindset to really shift yourself into this person today who now owns a business, is looking to do this long term and looking to really have this as a main part of her life.
I don't even know where to start. I don't even know, like, it depends how deep you want to go.
All the way. Go all the way deep.
Yeah, I think growing up, like I said, I am very adaptable to change and very adaptable to, like, I moved around growing up. So I'm from Wollongong, and then I lived in Sydney, and then I lived in Canberra. My dad's in the Navy, so we moved around quite a bit. And yeah, once I was living in Canberra, I had a lot of family things going on, like a lot of, things within my family that I think really shaped me growing up as well. I know a lot of people go through things that are very similar probably, but I guess that's why when we met, I was probably a little bit more in my shell, because, I just had a lot going on. And football was that escape for me. That's why I loved it so much, and I still love it to this day. Because it's just been that escape and that one thing that's really like grounded me and given me something to kind of like go and release those emotions on. And yeah, I just fell in love with it. My dad's a big football supporter and has been, and I basically didn't have a choice, but that's fine. But I thank him for it. So but yeah, I think I was like playing like a decent level when I lived in Canberra in the NPL down there as a goalkeeper. That was my first ever season as a goalkeeper too, which was like really cool. And then when I came back to Wollongong, not by choice. It was kind of, I had to. I don't know if you remember that from
Yeah, it was very quick. It was like, bang. I was like, oh, cool, she's gone. Yep.
I didn't even know that I was leaving.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I was basically told that I had to move back to Wollongong, which is fine. My mum's down here, but I actually moved in with my grandparents for the final 2 years of school. And I very much in those last 2 years of school, my health was just like not very good. I was like suffering from migraines, and I just had a lot of stress from like a lot of trauma, and I was very much in my shell. And I look back on myself. I see a psychologist very regularly as well, which I recommend to everybody. Doesn't matter who you are or what you've been through, a psychologist is like the best thing I've ever done. Getting therapy, I feel like that's where I've kind of recognized and grown a lot as well, and I'm more confident because I understand where things and triggers come from. But yeah, like I think back then I was very much in my shell. I was very much like, poor me, why are these things happening to me? I'm very much like a victim mode. I was like very sick, like I had migraines and just from stress. And then when I turned 18, or literally like a month after I turned 18, I was like, my partner who I met in Canberra, bless him, he stayed with me through all of that, moved down to go to uni. And I decided to move in with him and a roommate, and that was the best thing I ever did, because it just like pushed me to be a bit more, well, I was very independent growing up, but even more independent, and just rely more on myself. And yeah, and then I started working at Woolies. Hated it. Absolutely hated my job at Woolies. I wish I could have gone back to Macca's. And Macca's was an awesome job looking back on it. Like I
Really?
Yeah, I loved McDonald's.
Yeah,
I
right.
worked at McDonald's in Sydney as well when I was in Sydney, and I just transferred to
Which one?
South Hurstville.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I lived like in the Hurstville area in a place called Mortdale, actually. But yeah, and looking back on it, I definitely missed McDonald's when I was at Woolies. And I moved out at 18, and I had no money at all. Again, I kind of moved out. It wasn't really my choice again. I wasn't kicked out, by the way. I'm not a bad kid or anything.
She was kicked out.
Just circumstances.
Okay. That excuse.
But yeah, so I was like literally working like 10 hours a week, and I was living off like $200 a week. Like it was not very much. But I made it. I did it. So yeah, I think like moving out was the best thing I ever did for me, in therapy. And I've definitely like come out of my shell a lot more, and I've like healed from a lot of those traumas. And yeah, I stopped playing football, and I went through a lot with football too. I think like it was a very much an outlet for me. But when I stopped, I just didn't have this outlet anymore. And I was like, what am I going to do with myself? Like, this has gotten me through so much. And my love never kind of failed. Like, it never faltered with football. Like, I always watched it and still obsessed over it. But I wasn't playing anymore. I struggled really bad mentally with football. I think as a goalkeeper, it was really tough. And I played for a team down here that was like notoriously, they had 55 games in a row and they hadn't lost and all of this kind of stuff. And they asked me to go and play for them. And I was like, yeah, like, sure. And when I got there, we lost against our rivals 5 in the first game, which was like, I cried for like a week after that game. Like it was literally, and mind you, the rivals I played for the previous season. So
oh, wow.
I went from one club and then to the other who were rivals who were at the time a better club, and they were winning and all that kind of stuff. Not that I was hunting trophies or anything, but it just circumstances again, like I couldn't play at the other club. And then the first game we lost 5-1, and I had a shocker. I went to training, like obviously in the preseason, and I was having blinders. They were looking at me like, oh, this goalkeeper's good, like, yes. Then the first game I had an absolute shocker. Like it was horrendous. And then from there I was like, just my confidence was knocked. And I just didn't believe in myself. Like, I really just didn't believe in myself. Like, I'd go to training and I'd be like, what the frick? And I was blaming everyone else. And yeah, it was become very toxic for me. And I was like, all right, I'm going to step away from this now. Which was really hard because, like, growing up, I was the football girl. Like, I remember there was, like, people in Sydney that used to call me, like, the football. Oh, you're that football girl. Oh, you're that soccer girl.
Yeah.
I literally used to post about it, like, all the time on my Instagram because I was just, like, so obsessed. I even had a shrine at my dad's house. Like, my whole wall was just posters. I used to get the 442 magazine, and I used to just cut out everything, and, like, I'll have to, like, show you a photo of it. It was literally my
for sure, yeah.
I had, like, my jerseys up, and it was like I had a Man U jersey, I had a Sydney FC jersey, and it was just like, I've still got some of the stuff in the spare room at this house.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
But I just was obsessed. But yeah, I decided to step away from it, and that's when I got into the gym. And I think the gym really changed the game for me. Like, I finally found something, not that I wasn't like that with football, but I just really stepped into my confidence. And just really started to find who I was, especially moving out. My partner's amazing too. Like, he supports me so much. We've been together 5.5 years now. Like, we've basically grown up together. And yeah, I feel like he's shown me a lot of, like, stability and a lot of like unconditional love, which I think I wasn't really shown a lot of growing up. And yeah, I've definitely stepped into my confidence, found things that I'm truly passionate about. And yeah, like, I think, like I said before, like, I was very much in, like, victim mode, and I was very, like, physically sick because of everything that I was going through. Whereas now I'm like, you know, I'm very, like, grateful for life instead of being like, so why me? And, like, it's still, a lot of the stuff still hurts, and I still have trauma, and I'm still healing from that. But I think, like, I'm such a better person for it. I'm almost grateful for it. Well, I would say I'm grateful for it because it shaped me into the person that I am today. And I think, it's being able to, step into my confidence and be grateful for those experiences. And I surround myself with a lot of great people. Like we said before, connection and like-minded connections are something that I really value, because I felt I was not, you know, surrounding myself with the right people when I was that age, going through those things, which also, it didn't help, didn't contribute. So yeah, I'm almost getting emotional thinking about it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's understandable.
Yeah, I think, like, you know, and also I'm very grateful for my grandparents and my parents for helping me through that time. And then, yeah, my partner and his family, they're amazing. They've shown me, like, a stable family dynamic. And that's exactly what I want to replicate. You know, stability is really important to me too. So yeah, it's just, I think a lot of those things have shaped me into who I am today.
Yeah, it's interesting, some of the things you said. One thing I want to touch on is you talked about how, you know, you were going through life and then you had that really bad game and that kind of just really, really knocked you. And that period when you're transitioning from school into now the adult world, and the reason why I really touched on you building community and surrounding yourself around like-minded people is that there are not many people around our age that really want to make a difference within their community and make a difference within, you know, their groups and their network. And so it can be very difficult to surround yourself with the right people, especially at that age. And me as well, I come from a military family as well. My dad's also in the Navy. And I know that, those situations can be quite prickly sometimes, you know, and sometimes the way you expect to receive love and the way you expect to experience love is very different. And there's a massive disconnect in some of that emotional guidance and stuff that you might crave as a child. You don't necessarily get because there's a big disconnect. It's almost like
hit the nail on the head.
It's almost like in the military they forget that they were once kids. But anyway, it's a different story for a different day.
Yeah.
My dad watches this. I am not looking good after that.
Do you know what? Like, I also, like, as much as my dad was very hard on me growing up, because he was, like, you know, he was very, very hard on me. And I'm the eldest of 5. So I kind of was the trial as well. And as much as, you know, those experiences and those relationships kind of like what you said, I'm very grateful for him, and I'm very grateful for the things that he has taught me. And we have a great relationship now. And I think that's why, because I've done all of this work, and he's also done work himself, which is awesome. Yeah, I'm very, very grateful for him and everything that we've been through, because it's, like I said before, it shaped me as a person. And I wouldn't be as obsessed with football if it wasn't for him either. So
yeah. Plus, all those experiences make you really appreciate where you are now. You know, that struggle that you've been through, and for everyone listening, even if you're going through a hard time now, right, the struggle you're going through currently is what's going to make, when you're getting towards your goals, you're achieving your goals and reaching your peak, it's going to make that so much more worthwhile. So embrace it rather than shying away from it, because as Grace was talking about before as well, you can kind of be going through life, right, and everything can kind of feel fine, and you kind of think, okay, well, I'm not great, but like I'm not that bad. But then you can have a significant turning point. And for Grace, it sounds like that football match where you were super confident going in, and then, you know, you lose 5-1, and it really challenged you as a person. And it completely can knock you back to ground zero. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It feels terrible in the moment, but it's really a brand new chance to build yourself back up in a new way. And one thing we've got to realize, especially I'm talking to now people who are 18, 19, 17, you know, a lot of you haven't figured out who you want to be yet. A lot of you haven't figured out the beliefs you want to uphold, the people that you want to become yet. And that's completely fine.
I still have.
Yeah, and that's you know, you're pretty young as well. You know, I'm pretty young. We're like the same age, but yeah. You know, in this kind of age, you know, it's really about self-discovery and that kind of thing. And actually, I don't know, I'm pretty weird. So when I was walking home today, well, like I parked my car down the road, and then I just decided to like go for a bit of a walk, right? And when I go on walks and stuff, I like to think about different things. And one thing I was thinking about is growing up in, you know, in a British African household with military parents, you know, can be a very strict environment, right? And in some of those households, and definitely in mine, parents can be very restrictive of the experiences they want you to go through, because they're very worried about the person you can become. And then also culturally, it's a reflection on them as a parent as well, right? But those mistakes you make are actually quite necessary. I'm not saying go out and be stupid and do whatever, but I'm saying that, for example, it takes you going out to the club at 21 sometimes to realize, okay, well, actually, I don't really like clubbing, so it's not for me. Or it takes you, you know, going to watch your first football match at 18. Like, no, actually, I don't really like football. To better understand, okay, these are things I like and things I don't like. Sometimes, and quite often actually, we do need to learn from our experiences, and we need to go out and experience things. And you especially, one thing you realize as well is, okay, actually, yeah, I'm really into this PT stuff. And so even though naturally I'm not an outgoing person, I'm ready to accept the responsibility of changing myself to suit the person I want to become. So I'm not only going to learn how to be a PT, but, you know, you've really built up skills around that as well. You've worked on your public speaking, you've worked on your confidence, you've worked on your mindset as well, and ability to just push through, you know. And that's something that's really powerful, because if you can teach yourself how to push through and how to do things that are uncomfortable, you can start getting better results, you know. Because I know that even like 2 years ago, you would not be posting on your story like all the time and like saying, hey girls, or hey guys, like just wanted to talk about this today. And yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? But now you've embraced a leadership role, and you've taken on that responsibility, and you hold yourself accountable to that as well. And these are some skills and some tools that no matter what walk of life you find yourself in, like whether you want to be a PT or whether you want to be a manager at your work, or even if you want to be a high-performing individual at your work, right? Because a lot of times we get lost in the work.
Yeah.
But one thing you've done is you've realized, yeah, I want to be a PT, so I'm going to study about how to become a PT, right? But I also want to be a successful business owner, so I'm also going to do that. Because recently as well, I was talking to somebody in somebody who I work with, and this person has left their job because they won't, like, not her, but the person she was talking about, but that person's left their job because they were unhappy that they didn't get promoted, right? But the thing is, that person is a really good worker, but he's not a really good leader. Right? And there's a big difference between those two things. It's not always the hardest worker, and often actually it's really not the hardest worker that gets the best results. It's the person that is able to lift their head above the weeds and say, okay, this needs to be done now. Who can I get to do this? Or who can I get on my team? Who can I bring alongside me? And even actually Mubarak, our producer as well, he was talking to me yesterday, last night, about the importance as well of surrounding yourself around like-minded people and people who are going to help you and push you forward. So I really encourage people as well, whether you're in Wollongong or whatever, to, talk to Grace and figure out, okay, look, what is she trying to build here, and go to her walks. And even if I'm in Wollongong, I doubt it, I probably won't be in Wollongong for a while, but I'll come. I will publicly commit.
Spare room.
Yeah, I will publicly commit. Yeah, awesome, man. I will publicly commit to coming on this, if I'm ever in Wollongong. But yeah, I think those things, they're really important, like building that community and realizing within yourself, okay, this is what I need to learn in order to become who I want to become. You're now a leader in your community, so talk through that and talk about some of the things that you want to kind of share with people and some of the issues you've had, especially some of the issues you've had as being a woman, like the female experience.
I think there's a few things that you said that I was just like, I really want to touch on that. I think for me, being uncomfortable, it's like the cliche, being uncomfortable is where you grow, right? I've never learnt more than I have when I'm uncomfortable. But talking on my stories is still uncomfortable to this day. Going to the gym is still uncomfortable for me to this day. I'm a coach and I still get gym anxiety. I'm not diagnosed with anxiety or anything, but I'm a very highly anxious person. So I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I have never learnt more than when I'm uncomfortable. All those experiences that I went through growing up, but I grew and I learnt from them. Going to therapy, it's very uncomfortable. It's a very uncomfortable experience, but that's when I grow. That's when I've learned the most about myself. So I think even this is why I love lifting, right? You can relate it to so many things because lifting is uncomfortable. Pushing your limits is uncomfortable, but this is where you grow. This is how you develop strength, and it's directly applicable to life. This is why I love lifting. I can get so passionate about it. And like you said before, what am I trying to share? This is exactly what I'm trying to share. I'm trying to share the principles that you do in the gym is directly applicable to life. It's the same thing. And there's so many. I actually made a post about it, about all the things that I've learned from lifting that aren't physically beneficial, as in muscle growth or whatever, patience. I'm a very impatient person, and lifting has taught me patience because nothing is ever perfect in lifting. So, you've got to be patient, you've got to refine, you're constantly trying one thing and refining and going again, and you're going to have crap days in the gym and you're not going to hit your numbers, but your coach will always tell you, be patient, it'll come. So you're constantly trying to, wait and be patient. And some other things too, exactly what we just said, lifting's uncomfortable. I did some top singles over the weekend, which are basically 1 rep stuff. And I couldn't walk for 2 days after. It's very uncomfortable. But, that's where I'm now I've got this fire in my belly and I'm growing as a lifter and I'm growing as a person. But yeah, I forget what the question was.
I wanted you to touch on, there's a long-winded question. It's
Sorry, I just wanted to touch on that because
no, it's good. Yeah, it's good.
With me and lifting and while I do it, this is what I'm trying to get across. It's literally the best thing ever. And it's probably the same thing with football. Football is, you can relate so much to that too. And that's what I did, there's a lot of things I learned from football too, but I guess I'm doing that with lifting now. But yeah, sorry, continue.
No, it's all good. It was one of those long-winded interview questions that they use to kind of throw you off. You're like, Bruv, what did you just ask me? Like, but no, I was asking you to talk about your experience and particularly your female experience, like some of the differences you've seen, obviously going into a male-dominated space, which is the gym, right? And trying to get clients and trying to develop yourself as a leader and as a voice within your community, and you know the positives and negatives of that, and the things you've had to learn along the way.
Yeah, I think the PT space and the football space are both very like male dominated industries. So I've kind of like explored both as a female. Like I remember growing up as like playing football, we'd always get the extra large shirts and the shorts down to our knees because the men would get priority. We would always play on Sundays because the men would get priority on Saturdays. Like stuff like that, which is, like it's shit. Like we still, sorry, can I swear?
Yeah. Well, too late now.
I mean, I did it already.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was not that great, with that kind of thing. Like even now, I love the football club that I'm playing for, but even now it's like, men will get priority with training, like in training times. And, we don't even have female shorts. Like,
yeah, wow.
But it's not just our club. Like it's literally, unless you play at a high level, the uniform is a men's uniform.
Yeah.
Like it's not a women's uniform. It doesn't fit right. That's why you see all these women like hiking their shorts up so much.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable. And like the same with the PT space, like it is very male dominated. I've actually been really lucky with my experience so far. We have a really good balance between males and females, and I definitely think there are more females stepping into the space, which is really cool. And I think there's a lot more females wanting to get into lifting. Like, I've not always been around the gym. The gym's only been a thing for me in the last like 4 years. But when I first started, it was very much like, oh no, like this is our area. This is where the men lift. This is where all like the big dudes lift. You stay over there in that corner. And I used to literally get a set of dumbbells and go around the corner, like where there was like a little space that no one could see me. And I did my whole entire workout there from that spot.
Yeah.
And the first ever trainer I had was a male. And, not that there's anything wrong with that at all, because I'm so grateful for him. He showed me so much. But now I have like a female trainer, which is really cool. But even like training with, a lot of the like research and things like that, they're all tested and trialed on males. Like there's hardly ever like a female testing, which I don't know if you have, looked into all that kind of stuff, but it's very much like everything is tried and tested with males and not females. So we don't even really know a lot about the female body and that kind of thing and the effects on the female body. We're starting to, which is really cool. But it's always been like a male dominated thing, and how, like, I even watched a video, it came up on my TikTok. I love TikTok. It's the best thing ever. But it came up on my TikTok and it was like women's gyms in like the 60s or the 70s. And it was like, I was watching and I was like, oh my gosh, if they could see us now lifting all these weights and doing what the men do. Like even the other day, like when I did my squats, I did a 130 kilo squat the other day. And even all the guys in the gym were like high-fiving me and telling me how impressive it was. And I was like, frick yeah, like this is so cool. Not to get like their approval or anything, but I just finally felt like I was accepted. But why was I accepted before when I was lifting 50 kilos? Why did I feel intimidated, whether that's myself or they never made me feel intimidated, but why didn't they come up and give me a fist bump when I was lifting 50 kilos? It's just as a little bit, but like, it's really cool. But I want girls to feel accepted and to feel like, the weights room is for everybody. It's not just for men. It's not just for strong people. Like, it's for everybody. Everyone who has a body that wants to give it a go, the weights room is for you. And that's kind of what I'm trying to, get across. And it, like, being a female is hard, and so is being a male. We all have, our struggles. But I definitely think that the spaces that I've grown up in have been very male dominated. And I guess as a female, like being like highly emotional, and dealing with all of that as well, and having a different perspective on it has been tough, like at times. And sometimes, like, I think definitely in the last few years, I'm starting to step into my feminism and, really, looking into like the feminist movement and things like that, which I don't know a lot about. And but I'm still learning. But even some experiences I've had growing up, like I didn't realize were bad until I look back on it now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was effed up. Like the stuff that, had happened. And like even at McDonald's in Gungahlin, like I was catching the bus home one night and this guy put his arm around me and he was drunk and he was trying to like look at my phone, and I like freaked out. Like I didn't know what to do. And it's just like, I feel like, I mean, that's getting a bit deep now, but it's like, like it can be a little bit intimidating, a little bit tough being a female, but I think that makes us stronger too. But I think, there's a lot that's hard about being in a male dominated space, but it's also really cool to try and step into that and overcome that, because it's cool. I like a challenge.
I think between the genders, we look at things very differently. They say that women look at things more from the perspective of safety and that kind of thing. And so that's always interested me, because, for example, that incident, right, where someone put their arm around you, for a guy, we might brush it off or whatever. But for a woman, that might really sit with them for a while. Like, wow, this person just fully came into my space, and like, that feeling of I don't have control in the situation, and like anything can happen, and you know what I mean, and like what am I going to do, and that kind of thing. Whereas as guys, we don't think about that, and that's why I asked you that question as well, because one thing we really want to do in this season is unpack the female perspective and get our audience considering both sides of the equation and realizing that actually, some things that aren't a big deal to us guys, actually it does have a big deal on the opposite gender, and some things that aren't a big deal for women, actually it does have a big impact on guys, because I think it's important to have more awareness of these things so that when we're carrying ourselves as humans, we're not doing things that are extremely detrimental to somebody else. Not realizing that actually, it's not a big deal to us, but it is a big deal to them. We at least need to be. Exactly.
Like, it's relative to who you are and what your experience is. It's like, when you talk to someone about the things that you've been through growing up, they're like, oh, but mine isn't as bad as yours. And it's like, but it's relative, like yourself in someone else's shoes. And that could have been really, really tough for them, even though comparing, like, that's why comparison's such a crap thing. Like, and I hate comparison, because it's like, it's all relative at the end of the day. But there's been a lot of experiences like growing up that I look back on now, and even now, like I'm like far out. Like just the other day in the gym, there was this older guy who decided to comment on my weight, and I was like, who are you? You know what I mean? Who are you to even say that? He was like, and then he went a step further to be like, what does your man think of you not being so trim and taut anymore? And I was like,
oh God. Anymore. Oh God. That anymore, that's a gut punch.
I was like, but it doesn't even there's so much that goes into it. Like, I was so angry, and I've moved from it now, but just like, one, like, don't comment on my weight. Two, what does my man think? He doesn't care. One, I don't care what he thinks. And it's like, why do you care what he thinks? Like, why are you caring about what another male thinks of what I look like? Like, it's just so backwards. And mind you, he's a bit older, and I don't mean to put that and whatever, but obviously, like, they have a very different way of thinking. He's in his 60s. But like, it happens all the time. And I think it's such an important thing to get across, is the female perspective, as well as the male perspective, obviously, as well. But I think it's definitely, I think we've been, suppressed for a long time. I don't know the right words to use because I'm still learning about it, but I think, it is really important.
I wasn't going to do this, but I think we're going to further go into that. I think, right, I have some very controversial thoughts on these matters, but I spend a lot of time thinking about these things, right? And I think that like 50, 60 years ago, society was set up to benefit a married pregnant woman the most. Right? That was who society was set up for. But as we've become a lot more populated as a society in general, that actually disenfranchised a lot of people because not everyone was getting married, not everyone wanted to get married anymore, etc., etc. And then people also changing their beliefs. Like now there's a lot more gay people, there's a lot more trans people, there's a lot more people of all different types of varieties, right? And so originally, I believe the reason why women weren't even allowed to work is because that was seen as the thing that the man does, and the man will support his woman. But we're losing that kind of traditional family and that traditional path, right? Because people are choosing to say, actually, you know what? I want to be single till I'm 70. And, and that's their choice. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that is their choice at the end of the day, right? And so women needed an alternative, like if they're going to be single, they need to be able to provide for themselves rather than being reliant on their family. And so that's why I believe that things had to change, because a lot more women were saying, actually, you know what, like, if I'm in a bad situation with a guy and I'm trying to get away from him, I can't do anything. Like, say I need to break up with my partner, right, because he's abusive or whatever. I then essentially have to date another guy in order to be able to support myself, right? Now, I do understand why society was set up that way because, there is a physical implication on a woman when she has a kid, right? Like, we don't all, but some people pretend like, a woman taking off time for work because she's had a kid is the same as a guy needing to take time off. But really, like, only one of us had to push out the baby, right? And that actually does have a physical toll on the body, right? And so,
a mental toll and a mental toll. It's a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that time off previously was for the recovery of that woman. So then also, a woman staying at home and looking after the kids allows those kids to be raised in the way that father wants them to be raised. Whereas when you don't have that anymore, they're getting raised by the government. They're getting raised by the people around them. Do you know what I mean? Because, for example, even me, right? Obviously, I'm black. Surprise, surprise. I don't know if anybody was aware. But I grew up in the UK, right? And there are a lot of people a lot of black people in the UK, but some places where I lived, there wasn't, right? And so my parents would raise me up in a specific way, but there were certain things I didn't agree with. Are in Nigerian culture, you're not supposed to challenge that at all. So my parents are like Nigerian, British, and Jamaican, right? Wait, are you still there?
Yeah.
I don't know if you dropped out. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, I think it like dropped out for a second or whatever.
No, you're right.
Okay. Oh no, you just fell asleep because it was that boring. But, no, I'm joking. But my parents are Nigerian, British, Jamaican, right? And those cultures are actually kind of similar, right? They have similarity, right? But I'm not supposed to challenge anything that my parents say or whatever, especially being a child. But when I go to school and I tell my friends some of the things that happened at school, my friends are telling me, no, it shouldn't be like that. You should say this to them and whatever. And sometimes I tried it and the result was not good, right? But I'm being raised by my peers, right? So I'm rejecting the guidance and the counsel from my own parents because I'm listening to the people around me. And especially as a kid, when you go to school, it's very hard to not do that. And so if the man who needs to provide, right, in that situation that we had 50 years ago, is at work, it's the mother who can enforce the principles of that household at home. And so that's why women stayed at home, right? And the thing is, that model just wasn't working for everybody anymore. And we haven't found a successful model to replace that, which I think is why we have a lot of chaos today and a lot of women wanting guys to be more like women and a lot of guys wanting women to be more like men. And then we also have women that want to be more like men and guys that want to be more like women, And also, because we haven't had wars and stuff like, obviously, Ukraine-Russia war, that's going on right now. But because we haven't had any massive global world wars and whatever, people's focus and alignment into understanding, okay, who do I want to be? What do I want to become? What type of family do I want to have in the future and whatever? People are losing sight of those kind of things. And we're becoming more individualistic because we don't have to, as much as we did before, think about other people. Yeah. So, yeah, before, I think that society was set up to benefit the married, pregnant woman the most, but things have definitely shifted from that. What do you think about it? I'll leave it for there now and let you add your thoughts to that.
Like I said before, I'm still learning a lot about like feminism and those kind of things, but I think, I don't know if I would agree with
That's fine.
The society being set up for the married pregnant woman. I think it was, in my opinion, and I don't really have an opinion because, again, I don't know a lot about the topic, but I think it definitely, I mean, both like the man and the woman had struggles back then too. I think women were very limited in what they could do, and they just conformed because that was easier and that was what they were told and that was what they were shown. And I think like now, like you're saying, society evolves and changes and all of that stuff as well. And I agree with you on the point that like we're very much learning more about how to be individual and be, independent, and not reliant on another person. And I think that's really important. I feel like being able to be independent and rely on yourself and not have to rely on someone else is a really important thing. And like, I would even say that, you know, with me and my partner, like our roles are very different and non-traditional. You know, like he, you know, I mean, it's different because we're both studying, but I definitely am the one that kind of works more, and he kind of cooks and cleans and does like the other side of things, which he won't mind me saying. But yeah, no, I think we have a bit of a non-traditional setup as well. And I think whatever way works best for you and your family and you and your partner and you as a person, whatever you prefer or whatever you want to do with your life, you should be able to do it. And I think that's where I guess the like struggles have come into it for women and because we have been told for so long that that's not what we do. And, you know, like we either do too much or we don't do enough. Like it's kind of like always, you know, one or the other. And so we've kind of just been like, all right, like, let's just do what we're told. And I think like now, like being a business owner as a woman and creating like a career for myself as a woman is something I really hold of high value. As much as I hold, like I really want to have kids one day and have a family and be a mom, that would be really cool. And I've even already named my children.
Yeah, like, damn, yeah, wow.
I want to have a family one day. And that kind of scares me to be like a business owner and have this career and then also have a family and try and be present in a family. Like, I think that's going to be really challenging. Like you said, you know, back then it was very much set up so the woman could stay home and look after her children and bring them up and teach them values. And I want to be that for my kids, but I also want to be a boss ass woman and have my own business. And it's like, how am I going to do all that? And it's really hard. But I think that's when like, I mean, that's a worry for down the track. I'm not going to worry about it now. But I think like it is that kind of balance because we're told like to have children and, you know, I mean, we're the ones that can have the children. I don't think it's possible for a man to have a child.
Not yet. Coming soon. No, I'm joking.
Which is cool. And I really appreciate that about the women's body too. I think, you know, being able to create a baby and birth a baby is pretty cool, like pretty damn cool. But yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know.
I would hate to be the guy that found out that guys couldn't get pregnant. Let me just say that. Nah, that's deep. But no. So that's why I was saying that society was set up to cater to the married woman, right? Because it's about giving them the ability to not have to work and whatever. Because now working is glorified and that kind of thing. But really, like back then, it was very much a prison for men in terms of like, a lot of people might not necessarily want to work or whatever, but they had to. Do you know what I mean? They did
Yeah.
it because it was their duty to then earn money to provide and support for their family, right?
I
And
think it's
so,
why, like, you know, as well, like now it's so cool that like you can kind of do what you want and find someone that will benefit or contribute to that. I think that's cool. Like if a man wants to adopt more of that household kind of bringing up the children and that kind of thing, then that's really cool. Like you can do that. And if a woman wants to be independent and, you know, have a career and value that, then that's really cool too. Or if a woman wants to be a stay-at-home mom and bring up her children and do that, that's really cool too. Like I feel like there's a place in society for all of that. But I think also what we struggle with as women is like, you know, and not from personal experience because I obviously don't have children. Well, not obviously, but for everyone have children. But, you know, like even in my own experience, I've judged women for, you know, being too much in their career and not involved enough with their children. Like you look at celebrities and things like that and you're like, oh my gosh, she has a nanny. Like, you know, I bet you she doesn't even spend any time with her children. It's like, well, she has this amazing, successful career. Like, you know, and then you go into, okay, well, if she's a stay-at-home mom, oh, she like just, you know, lounges off her husband and doesn't do anything and, you know, whatever else. And it's like, well, we can never be like, we have this constant struggle. It's like, if we go one way, then we're not involved enough. Or if we go the other way, we're not driven enough. And it's like, you know, where's the in between? Like, I guess like, you know, for me, it's like, I feel really passionate about my career and I feel really passionate about what I'm doing, but I one day might go, you know what, being present with my children and being able to be a stay-at-home mom is more important to me right now. And I might do that. But then in order to do that, it then contributes to things like the gender pay gap and things like that. Like there's so many things involved with it that it can be kind of tricky to navigate.
I don't believe in the gender pay gap at all.
Yeah,
I actually don't.
I don't know enough
What
about
are your thoughts on that?
I think like the actual like gender, I don't think there's a difference between like if you're in the same role being paid differently. I think it can happen, but I think it's like on a rarer occasion. But I think the reason for gender pay gaps is for things like, you know, maternity leave and, you know, women having to, you know, take time off work to have children and things like that. That's where the gender pay gap comes from. I don't think it's actually physically being in the same role and being paid less.
There's a world pay gap. The fact that we decide to make that gender based, to me, is based in foolishness, right? Because there is a worldly pay gap. You have Elon Musk and people like that who are getting paid billions, and you have us that are being paid in thousands, right?
There's also, like, you know, they like, yeah, I totally agree in that sense as well.
You can't expect things to be equal. What I do believe in is the glass ball. I do believe there is a glass ball for a lot of females, and I do.
What's a glass wall? Sorry, I don't know any of this
No,
stuff.
that's fine. No, it's completely fine. So a glass wall, and it's actually really great that you've brought that out, because I've said that expecting everybody to understand what that is. But, you know, I forgot, you know. There are some people listening that won't know what that is, so it's great you asked that. But glass wall is the idea that women can only get to a certain level.
Right.
And then they're just stopped at that level. You know, like they find it really hard to break that glass wall. Yeah. Now, I do understand why that exists, though. But one thing I'm going to go back to is what you were talking about before, with that balance of, you know, wanting career, but also wanting family. One thing I don't know, and look, you know, I could be wrong in this statement, but I'm not sure that a lot of women realize that one of the main reasons why a lot of guys work so hard in their career is not for themselves. It's actually to then one day hopefully provide for their family. Yeah. Right. And so instead of encouraging everyone to do what they want, I don't believe in encouraging everyone to do what they want, because some people want to be murderers. Do you know what I mean? And I know that you're not. I know that you're.
One, like, you know, there's always going to be like that kind of side of it too. Like, like I'm saying a very general statement. Yeah.
Yeah, and I get that, and I 100% get where you're coming from, but what I'm trying to say is that if we hand out that advice, it's very dangerous, because we're telling people that no matter what they do, it's fine, and that's not actually true. That is not, and one thing they say is women
I
see,
just meant in the sense of career and stuff, though. Like,
yeah,
I don't, yeah.
I 100% agree with you.
If you want to go murder people, you should do that.
I know, I'm not saying you're saying that, but what I'm saying is that the way we say things, we have to be careful about how we say things, because people can receive it in the wrong way and then take that and run with it. So, for example, like, we have to understand the power of our words, and that's something I'm still learning as well. I'm not perfect in this regard either. But for example, if my brother, right, comes up to me and like he's asking me like, oh, I want to do this, and I'm constantly giving him the confidence and the encouragement, saying you can do whatever you want, and I'll still back you and believe in you. That means that even when he's doing something wrong, for example, and somebody else might be calling him out for it, he's then using what I've said as confidence and saying, no, you're wrong, when in reality he's wrong. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I think I definitely understand what you mean. Like, you're trying to say that, look, if you're having a positive impact on society, then go ahead and do whatever you want. And that's 100% what I agree with. But I think we have to be clear when we say that, because people can take things and just run with them, But we have to remember that, as we talked about at the start and we both agreed on, that people are at the forefront of what we want to do, right? And so, your family is your immediate community. So for me, in my perspective, for example, let's not even bring this into every guy or whatever, but for me, I do a lot of the things I do for my family, so that I can spend more time with my family in the future, rather than, and this goes into the differences in dealing with societal pressure, right? Because I 100% understand where you're coming from when you say, if you go out and focus on your career, then you get slaughtered for being, a mom that doesn't care about her kids. But then if you just stay at home, it's like, well, why don't you want to do anything yourself? Like, you're just leeching off this person. And it's like, how can I win? But I think the win comes from acceptance of self. Like, no, I understand that I'm doing this for a reason greater than even myself. But this is what my family needs of me. This is what my family requires of me. And what I like that you brought out is now those different roles can be played by different genders. So, for example, if your partner says, I want to stay at home and look after the kids, then he will need to adopt that inner belief that, even though society might tell him it's the wrong thing or whatever, he can accept that within himself and say, look, this is what my family needs me to do. I have my partner, she's a PT, she brings in the finances, etc., etc. She really holds us down on that front. She can't do everything. So I'm going to be the one who supports her in this regard.
Yeah.
But just, being conscious of that wording, that we can't do whatever we want to do, because we have to be very actually careful in what we do to make sure that what we're doing and what we're saying has a positive impact on the people around us. But one thing we can do is have humility in being able to have these kind of discussions and accept that, okay, my views may not necessarily be correct, and be ready to be challenged on them. So, for example, like, that's why I've even said what I said initially, and then I wanted you to come back and say what you wanted to say, because it's important that even if I'm someone who really believes in what I'm saying, I at least hear the other side. And this is exactly why we're looking to also bring women into the conversation as well, because your input is very important. Like, we really need to understand this from both sides, rather than one side just dictating it or saying, okay, this is how it has to be. Whereas we need to create a solution that works for most people, not just a few people, if that makes sense. Do you agree with that? Or?
Yeah, I think everyone's circumstances are very different as well. Like, I think your upbringing and your external factors and just your beliefs and your values, like, everyone's so different. So I feel like everyone, like you said before, I'm not saying that everyone can go and just do whatever they want, but I think, like you said, you're having a positive impact on, people and everybody, then I guess you can, follow whatever you kind of want to do in that sense. Like, for me, at the moment, it's like very career. Like, I want to make sure I'm setting up myself, for the future, and it's not necessarily for my family, but just you know, you can be selfish in the sense that, you know, this is for me too. Like, I want to be able to be comfortable and stable and, you know, those kind of things, and eventually have a family one day. And again, my values might change, you know, 5 or 10 years, and that's fine too. Like, whatever goes. I think, yeah, I agree.
So I didn't mean to call you out specifically. I just meant in generally in society. Like,
I know what you.
Yeah. I meant in general, like society, people nowadays get told, do whatever you want to do, like just be whoever you want to be, and that kind of thing. And I just meant in a larger sense. So like when you said that, it reminded me of that, and so I used that as a reference. But I definitely, I know that.
Like, you know, in terms of like, as long as you're having a positive impact, I think, you know, definitely I'm very much a follow your passions, follow whatever you want to do. Everything that I say, like a saying that I say all the time is everything is always working out for me. So even when it doesn't feel like it's working out like it is, like as long as I'm following my heart and I'm following my passion and I'm, you know, it feels right, then it's going to work out, you know, like it's going to be okay. And I even, you know, a perfect example is my partner. He started studying exercise science and he's always loved physics. Always loved physics. He did a full year of exercise science and then went, I don't know if this is what I want to do. And I'm like, go do physics. He's like, yeah, but what jobs are at the end of a physics degree? I go, it doesn't matter. Like, you know, like just go and it'll work out. It'll work out. Like, you know, the worst that can happen is that you end up with a degree at the end. Like really at the end of the day, that's not a bad outcome. Like it's actually a really great outcome, and it's a privilege that we even get to study in the first place. So like, you know, like I said to him after his first year, stop wasting your time doing a degree that you don't want to do just because there's a job at the end. You know, like, just go and follow, you know, what you want to do, and we'll figure it out. Like you'll figure it out. And now it's like, you know, it's already opened up so many more doors for him. And even for me, like I've got this amazing business and this career in the making, and I'm like, one day you could probably come and work for me and do my spreadsheets. Like, you know, it's, you know, like it's everything will work out as long as you are following your passion and like what you think is right and having a positive impact on people. Then I think you're gonna be A-okay.
Yeah, I really like what you've pulled out there about taking those steps. Like taking steps towards what you want to do. And one thing you also discussed, and that's something I also do myself, when I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this, whatever, I think about the worst case scenario. Like,
it sounds backwards, right? Like people tell me all the time, they're like, don't think about the worst case scenario. And I'm like, yeah, but what is the worst that can happen? Like even like, what's the worst can happen? Then I fail a subject. Oh, well, I'll just do it again. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's cool, like whatever. So I think it sounds backwards, and I don't know whether my psychologist would really tell me that that's a good thing.
Oh, really?
The worst case scenario. Yeah. But when I do, it doesn't, like, it's really not, like, in a lot of situations, not all, obviously, but it's like, in a lot of situations, it's going to work out. It's going to be fine. Like, you know, like I said to him, what's the worst that can happen? You don't end up being a physicist, but you end up with a degree, and having a degree edges you over someone else in a job that you apply for, or, you know, you show that you followed your passions and that's what they're looking for in an employee or whatever. You know, like it will work out. That's what I said. It will work out. And it's great that he's good at math, because now he can do my spreadsheets and my tax.
You're really sold on him doing that, hey?
Yeah. So charge my laptop's about to die and I don't want to cut out.
Oh no, you're all good. You're all good.
Second. There we go. We're good to go.
Yeah, perfect. I thought you were with a dog or something. I was like, oh, what's going on there?
No. I was like, it's going to die.
Yeah, no, it's all good. No, but yeah, I think what you said there is really good, you know. Having that and keeping that positive attitude that, you know, things can work out for me. And it's hard because I think, especially at our age, I don't know about you, but I definitely often have the thought of, am I doing the right thing here? Like, am I on track? And one thing that happens in our society I don't think is talked about enough is, for both men and women, you know, we both think these things. We look at guys that maybe are performing well in their sports or in their music or, you know, PTs or whatever, and this is why we tell the stories of different people, and this is why we even got Grace on today, is, you know, you see people having success in their lives and you don't think that actually they think the same thoughts as me. Like, am I actually doing the right thing here? Like, am I actually progressing to where I want to get to? Am I actually picking up the things I need to do or whatever? But as you rightly said, is as long as you have that positive attitude and that self-belief that actually, you know what, like, this might not even necessarily be the right thing right now, but I know that me taking this, at least I know, worst case scenario, going back to the worst case scenarios, I'm going to learn something here.
Yeah.
Whether that be in a relationship that you're like, you just got out of and you're like, why did I get into that? Or whether that being, you know, you've just finished school or you even dropped out of school and you're like, oh, maybe I should have stayed at school or whatever it is, you know, as long as you say, okay, well, look, I dropped out of school. I'm not happy with that decision. But what I've learned now is when I do something, I'm not going to so easily quit. As long as you're taking these kind of things, like these, you're changing and refining your attitude, then you can achieve the things you want to achieve. And you've definitely done that in your life.
I think that's a massive lesson that I've learned. Like, I think, even like looking back on, like I touched on before, like a victim mentality and being really negative and, you know, why me? And, you know, like all these bad things always happen to me and blah, blah, blah. And I literally was stuck. Like I was literally stuck. I was physically unwell. I was getting migraines all the time. I was like, my friends, like I was surrounding myself with not so great people. And it's like, you know, as soon as even my partner, when I first met him, he didn't say it to me at the time, but he says it now. He's like, you used to be a negative Nancy and now you're a positive Paul. And I'm just a completely different person. Like, because I think I've really stepped into being more positive and showing gratitude and showing empathy and showing those things, you know, and showing empathy for myself too. Like, yeah, okay, it was shit what you went through. Like, you know, yeah, you're allowed to be upset about that, but don't let it pull you down. Like I've had so many people say to me that I could have gone down a very different path. And I think the fact that I am the way that I am and I'm so mature and all these things that they always said, you know, say to me, you know, it's because I made that choice as well. Like I think there's an element of like, everything is always working out for you, but yeah, you have to also do the work and like make the choices. I think a lot of people like will get caught up in everything's always working out for me, but then they do nothing to like change. So they get stuck. And I think that's where I was. Like I was even seeing a therapist and like nothing would work. And it's because I wasn't ready to make the change. Like I wasn't ready to make the choice to move on, to heal, to, you know, do all the things. Whereas now it's like, no, well, it sounds obvious, but if you want change, you have to change. Like nothing changes if nothing changes is the same. Because it's like, you know, you can do all the work in the world, but if you're not like ready to make that choice and ready to make changes and learn and do all those things, then it's not going to happen. So you can sit there and say everything's always working out for you, but if you're doing nothing about it, like it's also not gonna happen. You know, like I think there's a balance.
You definitely have to show up. You know, you can't just sit back, be like, oh yeah, you know, life is good, everything will work out. Like you still have to show up and you still have to create those opportunities for you. It's actually really awesome you said that, because that's so true, you know, even in line with what I was talking about before and really being careful what you're saying is we talked a lot about how, you know, it's important to have that positive attitude. But one thing that we didn't mention until you did was, even though you have a positive attitude, you still need to show up. Like that doesn't mean you should work less harder. It means that you should keep pushing and keep realizing that actually, I can do something here. Yeah, for sure.
Because you can be the most positive person in the world, but like, you know, if you want something, you've actually got to put in the work to change it. And I think I think that's really important as well. Because people always say that, they're like, oh, you could have gone down a very different path. I'm like, yeah, but I made that choice not to. Like, you know, like it's not like, I think there's an element, there's like definitely a balance, because it's also like I get that people end up down a different path because of the experiences that they've had. But I definitely think, you know, there's an element of choice to an extent.
100%.
And I think like, you know, when I moved out, I could have very well, like, I wasn't kicked out, but I was basically like, you know, it's time to be on your own 2 feet when I wasn't ready. And, you know, I could have definitely been like, well, you know, made a big deal of it and, you know, gone down a different path. But I was like, no, right, all right, I'm going to get balanced first, and then we're going to make this happen. Like, I've got to make it happen. And And so, yeah, I think it's a balance for sure.
No, me too. I used to be called negative. I think my French teacher in like year 7 or year 8, she called me negative. That really stayed with me.
I was like,
she really just
say that to me at the time because it probably would have hurt a lot, but that's fine. I can accept that now because looking back on it, and you know what, as well, like I don't want to be too judgmental of myself because I was going through a lot, but I that's my therapist reminded me of the other day. She was like, whenever you talk about you younger, you're so hard on yourself. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know what? Yeah, she was going through a lot, but also I think it's good for me to be able to reflect on that and just see how much I've grown. And like, you know, as much as I'm judgmental of it, I am grateful for it and I am proud of her and I am, you know, who I am today because of what happened and those kind of things. But, you know, and I think it's like okay to take ownership in the fact that I'm really proud that I have become this person, taken those experiences and gone, you know what, I'm going to learn from those experiences, and whether it's learn to be like or to do the opposite or to have a balance, you know, I think is really important. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's awesome. We'll end on that very wholesome ending.
Beautiful.
But yeah, no, thanks everyone for tuning in. Let us know what you think in the comments. Feel free to comment your controversial thoughts as well. But
yeah, thanks for listening to all my tangents.
No, it's good. It's useful. I know that this is really going to help people, and it's really good to have your perspective on. So thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me as well. This was really cool. I like talking, so
I couldn't tell. Nah, all right. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.